What's going on, Borderlands fans? Cooksey back again with another Borderlands 3 hypothetical build that we will be building now and testing later once the game has released. Today we are going to be working on a shotgun melee hybrid build for Amara, and let's get started. So we're going to start in the Brawl tree today, as it is definitely the more tank-oriented tree of hers. We will start by picking up the Phase Lamb action skill, as it will give us the opportunity to do some damage, and later on we'll be able to add an augment and change it up a little bit. Then going to move down to tier 1 in the Brawl tree and pick up Personal Space. We're going to take 3 out of 3 on this one, giving us some extra damage when we're nice and close to our targets, which is kind of the idea with this build, as shotguns are intended for close range. We're also going to pick up 5 out of 5 in Clarity, giving us 5% constant health regen. And then when we use our action skill, this bonus will double for 5 seconds, meaning that we will get 50% of our health back after each use of our action skill. We're going to move down to tier 2 now, where we're going to pick up 3 out of 3 points in Samsara. This will give us stacks each time we hit an enemy with our action skill, and each of these stacks will provide us with some extra gun damage and some extra health regeneration. And then we're going to pick up Helping Hands, taking 5 out of 5, giving us an immense amount of damage reduction after each use of our action skill. In tier 3 of the Brawl tree, we're going to want to pick up Find Your Center, which is going to give us a nice little buff to our melee damage. And additionally, after using our action skill, we'll get a little bit of melee range, which will be interesting to see how that works out. Looking at the numbers here, it'll almost double the range of our melee attack. In tier 4 here, we're going to pick up a couple of points of One with Nature, which is going to give us a little bit of health regen and some damage reduction. We're just going to pick up enough points here for now to get down to this 5th tier of the tree. Now, in the 5th tier, we're going to want 5 out of 5 points in Jab Cross, as that's going to give us extra gun damage each time we melee, which will make it nice and easy to get kills with our shotgun after each melee attack. And we're going to come down here to Blitz and pick up our Capstone. This Capstone is a melee override, which will allow us to dash a short distance towards an enemy, dealing some extra melee damage. Now, this will automatically reset if we make a kill with this override. However, if we do not manage to kill our enemy with this, it only has an 8-second cooldown, which is nice and short, and our shotgun should do plenty of jab cross damage. Now we're going to move over to the Fist of the Elements skill tree just for a second, and pick up 5 out of 5 on Infusion, which is going to allow some of our gun damage to be converted into our action skill damage. This is super nice because we could run around with like a Jacob shotgun, which is kind of the idea for this build, and still be doing elemental damage. 40% of the damage we'll be dealing with this non-elemental weapon will be converted into our action skill damage. And then in tier 2 of the Fist of the Elements tree, we're going to pick up Illuminated Fist, which is going to give us some additional melee damage and convert the damage of our melee attack into our action skill damage. And for now, that's everything in the Fist of the Elements tree. Pretty much the rest of our points are going to be placed into the Mystical Assault, that is, except for the extra 5 we like to leave at the end to give ourselves a few options and add a little bit of variations in the builds. We're going to start by putting 5 out of 5 in Do Harm. This is going to give us a stack of Rush each time we kill an enemy, and these Rush stacks will be consumed at the use of our action skill. For each stack of Rush that we've accumulated, we will deal some extra action skill damage. And now that we've unlocked tier 2, we can put 5 out of 5 in Restless, which is going to give us 25% cooldown rate on our action skill. Super nice. The last point that is part of the core build here is going to go in Ascendant. Now this is just going to give us a bonus regardless of what augment we decide to use. Now that we have our core build put together, we're going to go ahead and pick an action skill augment. I like Revelation as the first option. This is going to go really well on a nice, primarily offensive build. If we're looking to do tons and tons of damage, Revelation seems to be the way to go. If we're looking for a little bit more of a defensive build, though, with a little bit more health regeneration and survivability, I think that Soul Sap would be a great way to go. Soul Sap's going to give us 30% live steal on our damage dealt, and then with the Ascendant, it's going to give us an additional 20%, making that 50% of damage dealt returned to us instantly as free health. So for now, I'm going to equip Soul Sap. Another nice thing with this build is that we have unlocked the ability to swap our action skill damage to whatever we choose. We can leave it as the electric damage, we can swap over to fire damage with Soul Fire, or we can swap over to corrosive with Blight Tiger, giving us a lot of variety in our damage output. So the final aspect of this build is going to be trying to figure out where to assign our final 5 points. The first skill that sticks out is Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel is going to give us an immediate second wind when we enter Fight for Our Life and create an elemental nova that knocks back nearby enemies. This will be super useful in solo, but honestly, it'll probably always be good. And then I would think to move over to do unto others. Whenever we take damage, we will automatically throw an energy orb back at the attacker. This will deal some of our elemental damage, and while it has a short cooldown, it'll always be useful. So with 2 of these last 3 points, I think that it would be beneficial for us and for our survivability to take a little bit more elemental damage reduction and give ourselves some max health. So I would put 2 points into One with Nature. And then with our last point, we can really put it anywhere we want, but I would stick to this tree. We can take Root to Rise to get 8% extra health, which is going to be nice, but maybe not the most useful of all of our options. We could put our last point in Arms Deal if we're looking to deal a little bit more splash damage and take reduced splash damage. This would be nice if any of your friends are trying to barrel troll you, but also if you're using a Maliwan shotgun as opposed to a Jacob shotgun, this skill here could give nice boosts. Now Mindfulness could be a good place to put our last point as well, except for the fact that it's going to give us a shield regeneration delay, and I anticipate that we'll be wanting to use a Roid shield on this build, so we're going to avoid it for now. And now moving on to what I believe to be the best option for this one skill point, Vigor. Vigor is going to give us a kill skill that grants movement speed to all of our allies. This will be super nice for getting up close and personal with any enemies. It will also help for navigation of larger areas, which we've seen Borderlands 3 is going to have, and it's going to help your allies out. And it looks like that is our build. Of course, there are a couple other places we could move those final 5 points, such as Tempest, which would give us further increased elemental damage. This would be super useful, especially if we were using the Shock elemental augment. Or perhaps we could put those 5 points in Violent Tapestry, which would allow us to accumulate rush stacks faster, provided we are using an elemental weapon. But seeing as how I anticipate using a Jacob shotgun on this build, that doesn't seem necessary to me. So go ahead and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe for more videos. Additionally, check back tomorrow to see our new Moze build. And if you stick around till the launch of Borderlands 3, you can see us test out these builds and make tweaks to them, perfecting them, and trying to create the most fun and most diverse playstyles on the internet. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time.